Precision grip, the ability to grip objects forcefully, yet exert fine-tuned control over the movement of the object. And we saw in the primate videos that we watched, they talked about that. But non-human primates don't have the precision that we do, even though it's close. That hand-eye coordination. Discoveries in Java. 6 sites in eastern Java have yielded all the Homo erectus fossils found on this island. Dates range from 1.8 to 1.6 million years. And then there's a place called Nangdong. Individuals date between 50 and 25,000 years. And so we're constantly finding things that are not what we expect. So no one thought erectus was around that long, but it looks like this could be true. In Java, no artifacts have been found that can be associated with Homo erectus. It's believed that the fossils found on the island of Flores, Homo floresiensis, may be descendants of Homo erectus. Here's a skull and a femur from Java. This is erectus. You can see the brow ridge or the supraorbital torus here. There's the back of the skull, the front of the skull. And this femur has some major problems. The Chokodian in China. Composite cranium of the Chokodian Homo erectus. Reconstructed by Ian Tattersall and Gary Sawyer. The white part is the part they've added. The brown part is what they found, even though I think this is a complete, I think it's a model of it. China erectus, dragon bones, used as medicine and aphrodisiacs, were ancient bones that were found and ground up. At the Chokodian, China results, 40 male and female adults and children have been found near the Chokodian. The site was occupied for 250,000 years. 250,000 years erectus lived there. And out of the 40 male and female and adult, or male, female, adult, and child's fossils, 40% of the bones were from individuals less than 14 years old. 2.6 were from individuals between 50 and 60. So this is important because this tells you high mortality rate for young, and not a whole lot live to be 50 or 60. Homo ergaster erectus expansion. The darker green area is all the places that Homo erectus was. Ergaster would be in Africa. This green area is Homo heidelbergensis. As far as we know, Homo erectus never got there. If you notice, there's Dominici here. Trends in the Pleistocene. The Pleistocene, I said it right the first time. The Pleistocene, or the Ice Age. Homo erectus liked to travel. Stone tools found on the island of Flores suggest that Homo erectus constructed ocean-going vessels. Suggest that, but there's no other evidence except for we find a hominid on the island of Flores. How did it get there? So there's no other information that we have that says, yes, they could construct ocean-going vessels. I'm not saying they couldn't, but there's no real evidence except they're on the island. Homo erectus embraced culture as a strategy of adaptation. Homo erectus is, like in the film, it's really showing up to be an early human-like species. The way it uses cultures pretty extensively for early on. Remember, we've only began to build cities like this in the last 7,000 to 10,000 years. Homo floresiensis and their recreation of her fossil discovered in 2003 on the island of Flores. And there's where she was found. The cave Homo floresiensis was discovered in, also known as the Hobbit because of her small size. Homo floresiensis, the Hobbit, there's 8 individuals that were found. They could be a descendant of Homo erectus. In the film that we watch after this, you'll see why people think it could be. On the right, on the top here, what we have is the stone tools that they used. And again, very primitive stone tools, but still stone tools.
have the skeleton of a pre-modern individual. It had no forehead and had significant brow ridges. It didn't have a chin and so on.
An apparently pre-human skeleton was a tantalizing find. Its small size and shape suggested a female child. But Raka soon discovered wisdom teeth, exposed and worn. This skeleton was not a child, but a miniature adult. If she was human, she was one of the smallest adults ever found, barely 3 feet tall. Struck by her size, the team classified her as a new species, Homo floresiensis. They labeled her skeleton LB1 for Liangbua, but it was the name of a fictional character that stuck, the Hobbit. And she was not alone. The team also found fragments of 12 others, equally tiny, including a complete lower jaw. Surrounding them were stone tools, charcoal, and the butchered bones of pygmy elephants, suggesting incredibly that these tiny creatures hunted and used fire.
This was something completely out of the sky, seemed to land straight in our hole, but it was genuine, it was real, and now we've got to deal with it.
To explain these puzzling discoveries, Morwood turned to Peter Brown, an expert in paleoanthropology. The Hobbit took him by surprise.
Within 60 seconds I realised this lower jaw was totally outside the range of modern human variation. There's no way it could have been a modern human. It was very, very clear cut.
The most perplexing feature of the Hobbit was its tiny brain, smaller than a chimpanzee's.
When I first measured the brain volume of Homo floresiensis, my colleagues reported that I went into a sweat, got very, very flushed, and was obviously flabbergasted. So I remeasured it, just didn't make any sense.
The Hobbit brain is dwarfed by modern humans. Around 400 cubic centimeters, it's less than 1/3 the size. Although her skeleton was surrounded by tools, she seemed to be a throwback to a primitive ancestor. To make sense of the discovery, the team needed to know how long ago the Hobbit had lived. Bert Roberts set out to date the sediment layers surrounding the ancient fossils.
My speciality is luminescence dating. That's where we actually look at when the sediments were last exposed to sunlight and entered the cave. And that's great because then you can work out the burial age of the individual. So straight away we started working on the sediments surrounding LB1. And we came up with a date of less than 30,000 years, which is very surprising.
If Roberts was right, the hobbits lived recently enough to have coexisted with modern humans. That surprising result opened up the possibility of using another method, radiocarbon dating, to fix the age of the bones even more precisely. Morwood sought out Chris Turney, an expert in radiocarbon dating.
There were these stunning ages going back in time, and the main hobbit was the equivalent of 18,000 years. I was over the moon and blown away. I was desperate to go and tell anyone, but I couldn't because none of the other team was there. And then when the other numbers started coming in, we just thought, God, these must be real. This was a creature who outlasted Neanderthals in Europe, that was kicking around on the doorsteps of Australia till at least 10,000 years ago.
The bones were between 10,000 and 95,000 years old. These surprising dates challenged the conventional picture of human evolution.